Hey everyone, it's Mr. Miles. I just want to give a quick series of videos for anybody who's going to be out, uh, just going over each act of Macbeth because I know it's Shakespeare. It's not the easiest thing in the world to go home and read on your own. I would encourage you to do that, obviously, so you don't fall behind, so you can stay on top of what we're doing in class because we are trying to, knock out essentially an act every day or so, every other day. Um, So these videos are going to be sort of a supplement to your reading. They're not meant to be a replacement for any of that. It's meant to just sort of be a additional resource for you as you're going through it, as you're reading, and sort of as you finish, you can go back and watch and make sure, okay, I missed this part, or oh, I didn't get that as I was going through it. But again, I'm not going to go into every little detail, every little quote, or anything like that. But it is important to do the reading so you can pick up on that stuff on your own, and then have this be a sort of reinforcement for it. So that's the gist of what I'm planning on doing with these videos. So first off, let's talk about Act One. Okay, so Act One, Scene One. I'm just going to go through it scene by scene. So Act One, Scene One is taking place at some barren, desolate, undisclosed location in Scotland. And it's really sort of a prologue. It's really sort of meant to just be, let me set the stage for you. The stage directions are thunder and lightning, which is what's going to happen every time the witches come on stage. The witches show up, and they basically say, where are we going to meet up again? Well, we're going to meet Macbeth. Where are we going to meet Macbeth? We're going to meet him on the battlefield. That's where we're going to meet him, when the battle is both lost and won, which gives us a glimpse of what the witches do. They speak in paradoxes, they speak in contradictions, they speak in these riddles. And so that's where we're going to meet him. And then they leave and they say, fair is foul, foul is fair, hover through the fog and the filthy air. And they leave the stage. And it's meant to sort of give the audience a sense of this eerie, uncanny, unsettling sort of vibe that's going to carry through the rest of the play. Okay, so the witches are the ones that we see first, and then Act One, Scene Two begins, which is where we meet Macbeth. Or excuse me, that'd be Act One, Scene Three. Act One, Scene Two begins with King Duncan and Malcolm, his oldest son, talking to a bleeding captain who is just come back from the battlefield. And so now we see that there is a battle that the witches alluded to in the scene one. And so Duncan is asking the captain what happened, how's the battle going, are we winning, are we losing, what's happening? And the captain says, doubtful it stood, like two spent swimmers who choke their art, which is basically a nice metaphor for we have two swimmers. They're both exhausted, and so they're kind of grabbing and holding on to each other to kind of stay afloat. And then the battle turned when Macbeth shows up. And Macbeth faces down the enemy leader, MacDonald, and slices him down the middle, kills him, fixes his head on a spear on top of the ramparts of the castle. So that's great. But also, we learned that there was a traitor in the Scottish ranks, someone who essentially invited the Norwegians, the Vikings over to help fight on the side of MacDonald and the enemies of King Duncan. And the traitor who did all that is a Scottish nobleman, just like Macbeth. In this time period, those Scottish noblemen, those aristocrats, sort of like they played essentially the role of a mayor or a governor. They kind of ruled a little small area with a castle. Those were called thanes, Thanes, thanes. And so Macbeth is a thane, and the Scottish traitor is called the thane of a place called Cawdor, the thane of Cawdor. And so Duncan finds out that the thane of Cawdor was the traitor who invited all these people over, and so he says, well, go pronounce the thane of Cawdor's execution. And so Malcolm and all the Scottish noblemen serving Duncan go leave the stage to go execute the thane of Cawdor, which is the punishment for treason. You betray the king, you're going to be executed. That's the punishment for treason. Um, then we see Macbeth and Banquo show up after Duncan says, we are going to give the Thane of Cawdor's titles and castle and his land and everything that he has. We're going to give all that to Macbeth, who has distinguished himself in this battle. Now, Macbeth doesn't know any of this yet. Macbeth, right now, he's just sort of, dealing with the aftermath of a big battle, right? So he's not thinking about, well, what rewards am I going to get or anything like that. And so Duncan says we are going to give the Thane of Cawdor's title to Macbeth. Then, Act 1, Scene 3, we see the Weird Sisters again. And this is where they make good on their sort of prophecy in the first scene where they say, hey, where are we going to meet Macbeth? We're going to meet him on the battlefield after the battle is lost and won. And the Weird Sisters, they just sort of introduce themselves and sort of give us a glimpse of how mischievous they are. They talk about killing swine and sort of causing mischief in the community. And then Macbeth and Banquo show up, and the witches proceed to give Macbeth and Banquo prophecies. And they start with Macbeth, and the witches say, first, hail Macbeth, Thane of Glamis. And Glamis is what Macbeth is already the Thane of. Macbeth is the Thane of Glamis. That's his title. So that would be like addressing me as, hail Mr. Miles, teacher of, British literature. I'd like, yes, that's true. I'm aware. Thank you. And then the second, which says, hail to thee, Macbeth, Thane of Cawdor, which Macbeth does not know that he is Thane of Cawdor yet, because we know, the audience does, that Duncan is going to give him that, but Macbeth does not know that. He's been too busy fighting a war. So he doesn't know that he's about to be the Thane of Cawdor, so that would be like addressing me, hail to thee, Mr. Miles, teacher of chemistry. I would be like, that doesn't seem right. Hold on, there is a teacher of chemistry, and I am certainly not familiar with that, right? And then the third witch proceeds to tell Macbeth, hail to thee who shall be king hereafter. And that would be like saying, hail to me, Mr. Miles, who is going to become superintendent. Whoa, there's a lot to process about that. Banquo, who is Macbeth's best friend, is standing there next to him, and he hears these prophecies, and he's like, well, hold on, you can't give him a prophecy and not give me a prophecy. So what do you, if you can look into the seeds of time and see which will grow and which will not, tell me what's going to happen. And so Banquo tells the witches, the Weird Sisters, what's going to happen to me. And the witches proceed to give him 3 prophecies, just like Macbeth. But these prophecies are more paradoxes. They are more contradictions. So the first prophecy is you're going to be lesser than Macbeth, but greater. The second prophecy is you're going to be not so happy, but much happier than Macbeth. And then the third prophecy is thou shalt get kings, though thou be none. In other words, you are going to father a line of kings, a dynasty of kings, but you yourself will never be a king. And so Banquo hears all these, and he's just not sure what any of that means. And so the witches disappear, into thin air, and Macbeth and Banquo are just sort of left standing around going like, wow, what's going on? And that's when Duncan's men show up, and they say, hey, Macbeth, got some great news. You're the new Thane of Cawdor. Congratulations. And that's the first time we hear Macbeth say something along the lines of, why do you dress me in borrowed robes? Because, again, the Thane of Cawdor lives. He's a prosperous gentleman. Why are you dressing me in borrowed robes? And they explain, well, it's because he's a traitor and he's about to be executed, so you get his title by default. And so Macbeth hears this, and obviously with Death's prophecy coming true, now he realizes, oh, well, maybe the king prophecy will come true. But at first he decides, I'm going to let it lie, because if I did nothing to become Thane of Cawdor, I wasn't trying to become Thane of Cawdor when I started fighting this battle today. I wasn't like saying I'm going to chop McDonald in half because I want to become Thane of Cawdor. It just happened as a byproduct. So maybe if I just sort of, keep it cool, let things play out as they will, maybe I'll become king. And so he later shows up to Duncan, Act 1, Scene 4, And Duncan essentially pulls the rug out from underneath him. He gives Macbeth the impression that he is going to reward him. And then he says, actually, I'm going to name Malcolm heir to the throne. And so Macbeth is like, okay, fine. Now I need to make some adjustments. I need to actually do something. I need to be proactive if I am going to become king. Because now I've got two people ahead of me. So you've got Duncan, and then you have his oldest son, Malcolm, who has been named the Prince of Cumberland. And he says, that is a step on which I must fall down or else soar or leap. I must either bow down and show him reverence and that I'm owed, or I must leapfrog him and get rid of Duncan and find out something to do with Malcolm too. And so he writes a letter to his wife, Lady Macbeth. And this is when we meet Lady Macbeth in Act 1, Scene 5. Act 1, Scene 5, Lady Macbeth reads her husband's letter about this is, well, the things that's happened. Here's what the prophecy said. And here's what I'm thinking about doing. What do you think? And Lady Macbeth immediately says, we are going to kill King Duncan. I am afraid that my husband is not man enough to do it. And so she says he's too full of the milk of human kindness. I'm a little worried about that. So he shows up and she says, I need you to become king. However you need to do it, do it. And then Macbeth says, hey, by the way, Duncan's coming to our castle tonight. So, we're going to have to host him and everything. And she's like, okay, you need to look like the innocent flower, but you need to be the serpent under it. You need to be the gracious host, but you also need to be ready to kill him because that's what I'm going to ask you to do. And then scene 6 is just a brief little scene where Duncan and Banquo approach the castle and they see some birds' nests in the rafters, the ramparts. And they say, wow, this is a good omen. It's a good sign. And, oh, look how inviting it looks. And obviously it's just dramatic irony to, make the audience realize they have no clue what they're walking into. It's meant to, again, reinforce Duncan as a little bit naive, a little bit maybe trusting. So that's what that is. And then the last scene of the Act 1, Scene 7, Macbeth is in the middle of the banquet with King Duncan. And he gets up and he leaves the room and he has second thoughts. And he starts to really sort of go back and forth and go back and forth. And he says, if it were done, then 'twere well, it were done quickly, right? In other words, I can't just sit here and continue to pretend to be nice and happy and joyful because I keep thinking about having to murder this man, which I'm going to have to do tonight. And so he's just burning up inside. His insides are burning up because he just can't stop thinking about it. And then Lady Macbeth shows up and she's like, hey, where have you been? Duncan's asked for you. Why are you still, gone from the table? And Macbeth reveals his cold feet, his second thoughts that he's having about going through with the murder. And then Lady Macbeth proceeds to tell him, you're not a man. And she attacks his masculinity. She says, if you durst do it, then you were a man. A man is someone who keeps his word. If I swore to you that I would do it, even something as horrific as like killing my child, I would do it if I promised you, because that's what men do. And so then she says, screw your courage to the sticking place and leave the rest to me. And she tells him the plan for how they're going to get rid of Duncan. She's going to get his servants drunk so they pass out. Macbeth is going to walk into Duncan's room. He's going to stab Duncan to death. And then he's going to take the daggers and leave them with the servants that Lady Macbeth drugged. And, wipe their faces and their clothes with Duncan's blood and everything and make them look very obviously like they're the ones who murdered Duncan. And she says, that's my plan. It's foolproof. You can't screw it up. All you have to do is kill Duncan and leave the daggers with the servants. That's all you have to do. Leave the rest to me. And Macbeth says, man, that's great. You know what? Yeah, we'll go through with it. And so that's essentially how Act 1 ends. And so audiences are now sort of expecting, all right, is this going to go perfectly according to plan, or is there going to be some like screw up? Is there going to be some mistake that happens? And so that's the sort of tone that Act 1 ends on. So anyway, that's Act 1, and then I will make another series of videos explaining each act as we go through. So again, if you miss a day or something and you miss an entire act, hopefully just catching up on these videos and obviously reading it on your own, which again, these videos are meant to not replace, they're just meant to supplement hopefully it'll help you out. So there you go.